Europe is literally on fire right now. Spain just hit 44 degrees Celsius. That's 111 degrees Fahrenheit for our viewers across the pond. But we are not just talking about a hot summer day. We are talking about train tracks physically warping in the UK. Hospitals in Italy turning away patients because their ERs are overwhelmed with heat stroke cases. Wildfires tearing through the French countryside at record speed. The infrastructure of an entire continent is starting to buckle. And the scary part, this is not a one-time fluke, it is a warning shot. Over the next few minutes, we are breaking this down into three core parts. First, what is actually coming next for Europe's major cities and why this is not going away. Second, who is really responsible for this mess. And third, the invisible atmospheric river that is turning the entire continent into a giant convection oven. Let's dive in. Let's start with what is coming, because this is not a one-off event. Climate models are crystal clear. Every single year, more regions across Europe are going to hit record-breaking temperatures. And it is not just the Mediterranean anymore. This heat is migrating north. Germany, the UK, Poland, they are experiencing temperature levels that were historically reserved for North Africa. That is a massive shift in just one generation. But here's the nuance that everyone misses. It is the old cities that are paying the highest price. Paris, Rome, Berlin, London. These cities were engineered for cold, harsh winters. Their brick buildings, narrow streets, and slate roofs were designed to trap warmth like a thermos. For centuries, that was a survival advantage. Now, that same design is backfiring catastrophically. When heat hits, these cities don't cool down at night. The bricks absorb the sun all day and radiate it back all night. You get zero relief. This is not just a southern problem anymore. It is a northern one, and it is spreading. Now let's talk about the hidden costs, because this isn't just about sweating through your shirt. Europe's agricultural heartland is taking a direct, devastating hit. Olive oil production in Spain and Italy is plummeting. The heat is cooking the fruit right on the trees. Wine harvests in France and Germany are starting earlier every year, but the yield is dropping and the flavor profile is changing. That is billions of euros in lost revenue. Even the Alps, the one place you would expect to stay cool, are seeing massive glacial melt. That meltwater supplies drinking water and irrigation for millions of people across Central Europe. When the glaciers disappear, so does the water. In tourism, no one wants to visit the Colosseum in 45-degree heat when the marble feels like a pizza stone. Southern Europe's entire summer economy is at risk. This is not an environmental issue anymore. It is an economic emergency. So who is really responsible for all of this? This is where it gets tricky, because there is no single villain here. It is not just one government. It is not just one polluting company. It is not China or the US or Europe alone. Decades of fossil fuel emissions from cars, factories, and power plants across the entire globe have been steadily pushing our baseline temperature higher and higher. But if we want to point fingers honestly, we have to look at historical responsibility. The US and Europe have emitted the vast majority of the CO2 over the last century. The Industrial Revolution happened here. The car culture started here. The modern consumer economy was built here. We essentially built the fire. We poured fuel on it for 100 years, and now the whole world, ironically including us, has to sit in it. This is not a movie antagonist you can defeat in the third act. This is a global systems failure, and systems failures are much harder to fix. Now let's get into the actual science. Why is this specific heat dome hovering over Europe right now? It all comes down to something called the jet stream. Think of the jet stream as a massive river of air flowing west to east, thousands of feet above our heads, moving at hundreds of kilometers per hour. Normally, this river acts like a barrier. It keeps the freezing Arctic air locked in the north and the warm tropical air contained in the south. But here's the catch. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the rest of the planet. That reduces the temperature difference between the north and the south. When that difference shrinks, the jet stream loses its power. It weakens, it becomes wavy, and sometimes it just stalls. When that river of air stalls, you get a traffic jam in the atmosphere. A high pressure system gets locked in one place, acting like a glass lid on a boiling pot. Air sinks, compresses, and heats up even more. There is nowhere for the hot air to escape. That trapped hot air just sits there, cooking everything underneath day after day, week after week. That is the heat dome currently roasting Spain, France, Italy, and spreading northwards. And because the Arctic continues to melt, this stalling pattern is happening more often for longer periods and over larger areas. This pattern is not slowing down, it is accelerating. These heat waves are going to become our new normal, whether we like it or not. We need to adapt our cities, change our infrastructure, and fundamentally rethink how we live in a warming world. If you want complex science broken down simply, you are in the right place. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I will catch you in the next one. This is Ricky, signing off. Stay cool out there.